This lens might be the only lens that you need for your Canon C100 system. It could be possible because it can do this. Well, I'm not a fan of that particularly, but I think sometimes it might help to be able to zoom a little bit. This lens, well, in theory, your footage will look stabilized because this lens has image stabilization built in. So today I'm in the town where I live next to see if we can capture some nice colors with the Canon C100 and the Canon 18 to 55 4 to 5.6 IS STM. Well, let's see what we can make out of that beautiful autumn day. With this camera, it is a good idea to expose a little to the right. Right now, I'm walking down some stairs, and with this lens, it should look kinda stable. In my opinion, it actually does. And don't get me wrong, I'm by no means a fan of zoom lenses. Personally, I really do not like zoom lenses, and this is still euphoric. But in this case, if you only have one lens, or you only want to use one lens for your Canon system, this might be a good alternative. This lens might not be able to capture cinematic footage, but what does that even mean? If you see some zebras with this camera, and I set my zebras to 95 and the second to 100, zebras are no good. You're up to no good here. Like the sky always seems to be blown out, and of course, since the sky is blue today and the sun is shining, that's a natural thing. But we can avoid that, right? So let's see. So far it looks beautiful, and it should be in focus. A pretty neat thing with this camera is that you have some built-in ND filters, 2 to 6 stops. And these are pretty handy. Right now I'm using 6-stop ND, and the images look fantastic. At least if you take into consideration that this is a camera that is more than 10 years old. Look at that. But it's a hefty beast. It's not an airy, no, not a red camera, but still. But you can do things like that with this lens. Look at that. Ah, that was smooth, right? So you could walk around with a 55mm. And of course you have to adjust. You have to adjust the ND filter because this is one of the only things that I do not like about this lens. It is that it has a variable aperture. But now, look at that. We are at about 85mm focal length. And now we are back. And now we are back to 27. This is some good feature here. And now, as you can hear, that I do not want to talk good about zoom lenses. But in this case, well, if you only have one lens for this camera, then this might be a pretty good option. It should look good, at least from what I can see. It should have me in focus. I'm now sight-ridden, and this is a pretty contrasty situation. But for this lens, when I tested this lens out the first 2 times, it delivered actually pretty good images. It was like the Sony 18 to 55, 3.5 to 5.6 that I used very often on the Sony a6700, on the Sony a6000. And this lens is kind of similar. It's a pretty cheap lens, but it got a stepping motor and image stabilization for that price. Yeah, the variable aperture is something that is pretty annoying because you cannot really plan the shot. There's no such thing as one shutter speed fits all. So if you want to zoom in and the aperture closes down. It does not close down, it's a mathematical thing, but if you do that, then you have a too dark image, or if you zoom out, your image is too bright. Yeah. So this is something you have to take into consideration when using this lens. But other than that, this is an all-rounder lens. You can use it all day. You can use it for everything. If you want aesthetics, then this might not be the best choice, but you already know that. Then you would need prime lenses, fast prime lenses, or manual lenses. But these are on the scale of convenience versus looks. Well, they drag the scale down to the usability, to the convenience, but the looks, no. It just simply does not look the same. It does not look that good. But you know that. So with this lens, the convenience weighs out the looks by far. If you are on your own, and if you want to shoot something and you are out on your own with this camera, or another Canon camera that takes EFS lenses, you cannot always generate the best looks. But if the looks are great, but you are not in focus, or if the looks are great and it is so inconvenient, do you hear that? These are all East German motorbikes. But if it is convenient, then you get at least the shot done. Even though it might not look like a movie, it might not look, but this can look like a movie, but this could look like a movie. You have to decide which weighs more for you. For me, it is always the aesthetics. I bought this one zoom lens. It's the only zoom lens that I got for Canon. I got another old one for Nikon. And I bought this because I wanted to have something, at least something convenient. If I would mount the 24, the 24 with good autofocus, yes, it is all right. The looks would be much better. But then I would have to carry around a lot of stuff. Right now, I do not have anything with me but this camera and the microphone. So this is the most convenient thing right now. And look at that. Blue sky, some leaves. And if I press the button, they are in focus. Look at that. This lens is pretty fast and quiet. It's because of the stepping motor. It's really not ideal today. But now, this lens has another good feature, because with the Canon C100 Mark II, it has face detect autofocus. Or has it? I tested this out once and it kind of worked. I tested it out yesterday and it kind of worked again. It's not as reliable, and I found the USM lenses of Canon's lineup to be more accurate and more faster. Right? But look, it functions. It's still pretty contrasty, and I can't do anything about it. If I'm lit from the front, I will position the camera a little different. Now, there are no harsh shadows, at least on my face. But the autofocus still works and still guides me. I will check out how this looks when I get home. But this is why this lens could be an all-rounder, a cheap all-rounder. You're carrying around a lens that costs $40. And for this $40, you cannot do anything wrong. And look, of course, it's far from perfect. But you can just start your camera, let it roll, and then you do things like this. Alright, this was bad. You do not have to set up a shot. You do not have to figure out if you are in focus or not. You just are in focus. This lens will capture you fine. And it will do everything for you. Of course, it's not that much fun. But sometimes it's not only about the look. Sometimes it's just about the convenience of having a camera that actually works. That you just start up and then you start shooting your videos. And this is a camera that is capable of doing that. Of course, it is a camera for aesthetics, but with this lens, it is so convenient. I do not need anything else but this camera and this lens. Look, you can just do and film. Like this old town that I shoot today. Look, there is nothing wrong with the aesthetics of this lens. It has no 3D pop, of course it doesn't. But at least I got the shot done. It would be so much more complicated to do it with a manual lens or a lens that doesn't autofocus that good. This combination is kinda heavy still, even though the lens is pretty lightweight. But the autofocus is excellent, look at that. So if you travel, and if you want to shoot some good video while you travel, you could use this lens as an all-rounder, so maybe you only need this one lens. Look at these beautiful alleys. And look, you can do this, and you are still somewhat there. And of course I do not cut it now, because I want to give you a realistic impression. But this looks fantastic in my opinion. So this is the town where Luther was born and where Luther died. This was once a very nice town, rich, noble, European. But now it's not really like that anymore. These days are gone. But some of the old glamour is still there. And in evening, this town is magical. Some of the old glamour lives in these old churches, in these old buildings. And see, I could capture all this just with a Canon 18-55. Isn't that amazing? So to end this video, these are very bad lighting conditions right now, because I'm in the shade, because I don't have a stand today. So you can see, I think, nothing. That's a brilliant shot, right? But the face tracking works. I cannot do this here. I need to be litten. I need to find a place where I'm litten. I cannot do it here. Well, maybe just I would take you with me and go down here, and then we adjust again. Alright, this is what I can do. So, behind me you see the city, and you could vlog with this camera if you're very strong, if you are used to carry a lot of beer. Well, I enjoy this camera very much, and this lens would be enough for a trip to shoot something with this camera. It's not enough to shoot a movie, I think, but it's enough to shoot video. So with this being said, let's go into the shade again. And now I'm dark again. It's not that good. Preferably you want to have a cloudy sky, but overcast, not some clouds. You have to adjust all the time. So with this being said, I think this is the only lens you would need if you're starting out, or if you want a versatile lens as an always-on lens. This would be the only lens you need. What bothers me with every zoom lens is that the looks are not that great. It is always flat. Scale convenience to looks, right? The usability is very good. There is nothing to say about that. And what bothers me is that these lenses tend to have a variable aperture. This is if you use a Canon APS-C camera, not the C100 or C300 or whatever. No, if you use a Canon APS-C camera, then you could use auto shutter, so that the camera would adjust to the theoretically closed down aperture. But with this, you always have to adjust to that. You always have to select different ND filters, or you have to select a different shutter speed. This is something that really bothers me with lenses like this. Days like today, sun is shining, sky is blue, very contrasty situations like you can see right now. On the monitor, I do not even think that you can see my jacket, but this could be, well, I might be wrong. I will see. So, this is something that you have to take into consideration. This lens is very, very useful. The autofocus is good. You see, The face detect autofocus works, kinda. The autofocus itself works fast and reliable. You have a good zoom range, 18 to 55, it's enough I think, because it is a Super 35 sensor, so you have to multiply it. There's nothing wrong with it, but the variable aperture, this is something you have to keep in mind. If you use a camera where you have to adjust everything manually, it is not a problem at all. If you use a lens like that on a camera that has auto shutter or something like that, yeah, or auto ISO maybe, but I would not use that. Auto shutter is fine, at least if you are not making a movie, because you don't, because I am not making a movie here, so I could on another camera use auto shutter, but for this is something, and the looks. I'm really into aesthetics, so these lenses they iron out your aesthetics, yeah. But it was not the intention of this video. The intention of this video was to show you that you sometimes just need one simple lens like this. That's all you need. You can walk around with it. You can walk around with it all day and shoot everything that you want, and later you realize, wow, what a nice day that was, what a nice trip to Rome that was, or what a nice sightseeing tour that was, because everything was alright with this lens. It functioned. Yeah, you did not have to check if you at some point is in focus, or if you want to shoot yourself like me right now. I do not have to check constantly if I'm in focus or not, because I believe that I am in focus. It's very convenient. This is why I say this might be the only lens that you need. There are other options, and you might consider them, like the L lenses. But for 40 bucks, this might be the only lens you need. The focal length is great, the speed is great, at least the autofocus speed. So, what else is there to wish for besides aesthetics and of course a constant aperture? But I think there are no EFS lenses that have these features, like good looks and constant aperture. That's pretty bad. Yeah, that's pretty bad. So with this being said, that's it for today. Like and subscribe, stay tuned, and see you in the next video.